What we've been waiting for is finally here. Or even better, if we did the unboxing back home. On second thought, we might as well do it in the home office. It's been a few years since the desk setup movement took off at the height of the pandemic, and most, if not all, of its faithfuls are always looking forward to sprucing up their setups design or tech-wise. Ever since I was introduced to computers, I've been using membrane keyboards, and with all the hype surrounding mechanical keyboards, I wanted to feel it for myself. So I set out to look for one in the rabbit hole that's the internet, and while on my recent travels, I was brought to a standstill when I bumped into this mechanical keyboard on Etsy. Straight away my eyes lit up, my heart started racing, and I could feel an instant connection. It was then that I knew this would be my first foray into the world of mechanical keyboards, and no better way to introduce myself than with a grand statement. Before we get into it, for the average Joe who doesn't know anything about keyboards, let me unpack it for you. For starters, there are mainly two types of keyboards, membrane and mechanical keyboards. The most common are membrane keyboards, and they are characterized by having a soft layer of membrane underneath the keys. How they work is when a key is pressed, a circuit registers that pressure and sends a signal to your computer that the key was pressed. You can think of it as a pressure pad. An example would be the Apple Magic Keyboard and majority of the laptop keyboards. Taking a closer look, you can see they have these soft rubber domes, and when you press it, like mentioned before, the signal gets sent to the computer, then the computer executes the command. One thing to note though, the keys on a membrane keyboard are only registered when you press the keys all the way down, otherwise known as bottoming out. On the other hand, mechanical keyboards have individual switches under each key that registers your key press. It gets even more interesting with mechanical keyboards because there are several kinds. The most popular being the ones with switches from a company called Cherry, and for a while the Cherry switches were considered the gold standard. Cherry had the patent for these switches, and once it expired in 2004, it was an environment modifier in the world of switches. This saw the rise of boutique switches like Getoren, Outemu, Akko, Zelios, etc. And from then on, a whole new web of modified Cherry MX switches came into existence. I'll quickly take you through the most popular switches. In general, there are three types of switches, starting off with linear switches. This type of switches have no feedback and feel completely smooth when you press them all the way down, and because of that they feel very similar to membrane keyboards. An example of linear switches are the Getoren black switches. Next up we have tactile switches. This type of switches have feedback or a bump that will occur during a key's travel. The bump is pretty slight, but it's definitely noticeable, and a lot of people prefer these switches because the feedback allows your brain to register the movement of the key being pressed, unlike linear switches where there is no feedback. From research, a lot of people have mentioned they haven't been able to tell if a key has been registered when using this type of switch. An example of tactile switches are the Outemu brown switches. Last but not least, we have Clicky Switches. This is a type of tactile switch, and they not only have feedback but also have a clicking sound that occurs when a key is registered. The most common are Cherry MX blue switches, by far the most hyped because of tactility and feedback you get when pressing them. Even though it wasn't super in-depth, I hope my little spill has brought you knowledge about keyboards up to scratch. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, smash that button, leave a like and hit the notification bell because I doubt you'd want to miss out on such amazing content. Anyway, let's get back to the keyboards. Now that everyone knows something about keyboards, let's sink our teeth into this one. Grabbing hold of the packaging, I feel like an explorer walking into a time machine back to the 1800s. Cutting the box open, a nostalgic masterpiece reborn with modern innovation lays in wait. Boy, this would be the perfect fit for composing literary masterpieces like this script. Taking a closer look, all the materials and features reminiscent of the Victorian era stand out. The wood, the walnut finishing, copper, abundance of dials and brass toggles are all clearly evident. Straight from the get-go, I'm already impressed with the reimagination of modern tech infused in the retro style of the 19th century brought to life in this mechanical keyboard. Jumping on the design, enclosed in a walnut-stained wood chassis, this mechanical keyboard embodies the true elements of the neo-Victorian era. The walnut stain brings out the grain of the wood, which is hand-sanded and sealed with linseed oil for a rich, lustrous finish. Starting from the top moving down, a melange of little knickknacks complement the rounded keycaps that have a brass outer ring and a slight divot to them, which allows my fingers to fit in perfectly. Going into detail, I'll try and bring out the correlation with the steam engines of the Victorian era, which the design inspiration is drawn from. The top part would be the perfect imitation of a steam engine, with the fast dimmable light acting as a blast pipe to release smoke from the horizontal riveted cylinder, which acts as the coal compartment and gets steam from the turbine through this blast pipe and has a crank to adjust the turbine speed. Moving across, we have the clock, which would act as the pressure gauge to release excess pressure through this pipe into the second dimmable light, which acts as a blast pipe as well. All these pieces bring out the contraption element, which is basically the creation of a multifunctional device. To put it into context, the lights help illuminate the keyboard and desk area, the riveted cylinder acts as a storage compartment for my desk utilities and essentials, and the clock adds an additional timepiece with a bit of that retro element. It's also got my initials engraved on it, which not only adds a personal touch but also emphasizes the rarity of this keyboard. Moving on to the setup, getting it up and running was a smooth breeze, and despite being skeptical at first, it connected to my M1 Mac Mini without any issues. For this mechanical keyboard, I went with wired connectivity. I'll also be doing a long-term follow-up review, and if you're keen to find out how well it copes, remember to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so that you don't miss out. While on the subject of following, you might as well follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok to have a glimpse of some behind the scenes and all the interesting stuff I do over there. Back to the keyboard. Now, to be honest, I was surprised by its low latency. Its data transfer and response times are definitely something to write home about. As for the mouse, I was tempted to continue using my Logitech MX Master 3, but aesthetically it looked out of place, so I paired it with this wireless steampunk mouse, which perfectly fits with the theme I was going for. Logitech, if you're watching, please send me a black MX Master 3S. Just to put it out there, one of those rare moments where I chose aesthetics over functionality, but in saying that, this mouse still does all I need of it. Quick tip on improving your setup aesthetically: repetition creates rhythm. Thank me later. I'll also be doing a separate video on the mouse, so stay tuned for that. Moving on to the keyboard layout. For those who don't know, keyboards do come in a variety of sizes that contain different numbers of keys, and in the keyboard world you'll hear percentages being used to refer to the size of the keyboard. In the case of this keyboard, it's got a 100% layout with 104 keys. It has all the essential keys plus a numeric keypad. In contrast, my Apple Magic keyboard has a 75% layout with 74 keys. Another thing to note is it's specifically designed for Mac, but can also be customized for Windows. While on the subject of keyboard layouts, we might as well touch on the actuation of the keys. I know some of you are already splitting your hairs. Fear not, I'll fill you in. Actuation is basically how hard you have to press the key for it to be registered. In the case of this keyboard, I went with Otemu blue switches, which have an actuation force of about 60 grams and a bottom out force of the same amount, which is ideal for someone like me with normal typing habits. In case you forgot, bottoming out is when the keys are pushed all the way down. Another important aspect to talk about with regards to actuation force would be travel, which refers to the distance the keys have to be pushed down before the key press is registered. In the case of these Otemu blue switches, the travel distance is about 4 mm, while the actuation is the usual 2 mm. Moving further down, the keyboard comes with a wrist rest made from solid hardwood and it's stained in walnut. It adds the much needed ergonomics to the setup, and being a person who's big on health and fitness, it was a welcomed addition. At the heart of it sits a foam padding upholstered in supple vegetable tan leather and has these triangular patterns that add an interesting design element. All this enclosed in a wooden chassis that's got a bit of a dome shape to it. Now, another question you've been asking yourself is, how much does it cost? So this is obviously a novelty product, and the company that makes this product is called Steampunk Renovation, and they are all handmade. When it comes to the number of people that are interested in mechanical keyboards, let alone antique looking neo-Victorian inspired keyboards, it will definitely be on the lower side, but in saying that, it's still a really cool novelty. If you do happen to fall in the small niche of people that are interested in this type of keyboards, you might as well be dissuaded by the price. After all, this is a niche product, and the business strategy of selling niche products that don't move a whole lot of inventory is to sell them at a higher price to help cover the cost of production. That higher price in this case is a whooping 1,126 Australian dollars, which is roughly 783 American dollars. Ouch! Yes, I can see your reaction, and I know you're saying no way on earth you're spending $1,000 on a keyboard, but then again, that's why niche products are synonymous with high price tags, and if you're a bit of a hipster and design enthusiast like myself, this one's definitely for you despite the high price tag. All in all, I think the quality makes it worth it, and this would specifically resonate with literary enthusiasts who are hardcore typists, or somebody who just wants a collectible for the edges. In saying that, there are a lot of budget options going for as low as $40, and you can always go for the one that suits you and fits your budget. After using it for a few days, I'd say my induction to the world of mechanical keyboards has been nothing short of amazing, and I'll be looking to try different types. Design-wise, an absolute retro masterpiece reborn with modern innovation that not only adds visual interest to my setup, but also the perfect productivity machine for it. People of the internet, I hope you've enjoyed the unboxing, first impressions and setup of my antique looking neo-Victorian mechanical keyboard. If you'd like to find out how I make my home office super productive for content like this video takes you through my entire home office setup. I'm signing out, see you on the next one.